I was sad yesterday morning because I said, man, it's week 18. These moments are so precious. We've done so many hunches and K-makers, and we've had so much fun enjoying all the highlights and the lowlights, and it's over. No, it's not. It's right here, and it's really good. We'll break it down. We'll have the ins, the outs, what have yous, a la Big Lebowski. What did we learn yesterday? Who can advance and who fades in the spotlight? Vikings legend and Hall of Fame finalist, soon-to-be Hall of Famer Jared Allen is here. How concerned should we be after that performance from his Vikings last night? Most tortured fan base in NFL history. And ESPN's Ben Solak is here. We got coaching news trickling in. I don't like that. I'm not the biggest Monday after Week 18 thing, but we got to get to it. That's why he's here. He's here to straighten us out on what's real, what's not, how attractive are jobs like New England and Chicago and everything in between. We'll get to head coaching news, best options, and we've got all that right here. If you have any questions about the playoff picture, we have our very own Steve Kornacki, Matthew Hamilton, no khakis but a better beard, on Up and Adams. So much to get to. We are super excited. What a weekend. This might have been the best final week of an NFL season ever. No hyperbole. I'll stand by that. We had drama and twists and turns and shriveling and blossoming and all the things in between. The playoff picture is here. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at Wild Card Weekend. It's my favorite weekend of the year. It starts with Chargers-Texans on Saturday. LA jumps the Steelers yesterday for the 5 seeds, so now Pittsburgh has to go to Baltimore on Saturday night. Or the Ravens, by the way. Early numbers are out over on FanDuel Sportsbook. Go there, get your bets in, 9.5 favored. On Sunday, we get Broncos at Bills, Packers at Eagles. Oh, it's so good. Green Bay's disastrous day against the Bears. I don't know how much time we'll spend on that, but it does knock them down to a 7 seed. I still think they beat the Vikings if they need to in the playoffs. We'll get to that, Commanders. Bucks is the Sunday nighter. Then we get Vikings at Rams in the Monday nighter on ESPN. Minnesota, by the way, over on FanDuel Sportsbook. An early 2.5-point favorite there. Get your bets in, people. If you have questions for Jared Allen, and I'm sure you do, Skull, where are you at? How you feeling this morning? Let us know at Up and Adams Show. I'm looking at the awesome YouTube chat as well. Oh, okay, interesting. Can we talk a little less talk about my sweater and a little more about the playoff picture? Shall we, everybody? Let's dig into what happened last night. The Lions dismantled the Vikings to win the North and the 1 seed. Let's just let Dan Campbell, who's probably not wearing a sweater that people are commenting about, instead of the win, right here.
You guys look like you remember who the you are! Yeah, that was awesome. That's a hell of a win, guys. All I can think about is, man, we've been forged in this stuff now. This has been 3 years in the making. Some of it 4. Like, that just doesn't happen. You got to work through it, grind through it, and go through the downs to get to the ups of where we're at. That was unbelievable, man. Division winners, back-to-back seasons, and the #1 seed.
Okay, most impressive complete performance the Lions have had in weeks, especially when it came down to Aaron Glenn. Hot name in the coaching market. This defense, he said, I want a coaching job somewhere. They grounded what had been an explosive Vikings offense. It took Detroit's offense a little while to kick into gear. They had 10 points late in the fourth quarter, but the defense held it down. Glenn banged up, doesn't matter. The man coverage, the blitzing, the aggressivo of it all. You don't really see teams ever play Minnesota that way. We haven't, because they've got the speed, they've got the talent. Teams are afraid. Teams also don't have what it takes. The Lions, they were fearless. They always are. They racked up 10 quarterback hits, y'all. 2 sacks. They forced Sam Darnold to go one for 9. Matthew Hamilton, 1 for 9 inside the 10 is terrible. 18 for 41 overall. Kind of a lopsided score, but the red zone was where the real issues were. And just listen to Dan Campbell. Listen, I know this is totally going rogue. I'm going to WWE Raw this evening. Apparently, my first parlay into the wrestling world is going to be that. If Dan Campbell isn't on Raw at some point in this offseason after he potentially wins a Super Bowl, I will be disappointed. That voice, that everything, like he really is the perfect bite to get this started. And then when I look at this, it's hard for me to not think it's going to be these guys standing here in this column when all is said and done in New Orleans, Ham.
Yeah, I mean, the one question everybody had coming to these playoffs was the defense, the health of the defense. Can they keep it together with all those guys injured? And to do what they did last night, I think answers all of those questions. And there still may be some rough moments for them here through the playoffs, but the offense is so good. If they can get efforts like that, I don't know who's taking them out.
They get to rest. The Vikings now have to travel to LA, where guess what? The Rams are kind of built the same way and can do the same kind of stuff to disrupt what the Vikings can do. If that was even the problem, or was it the pressure mounting? Was it the big spot that was the problem? Yikes. But we're going to give credit to the Lions here because friend of the show, Jahmyr Gibbs, we're talking about all the things that the defense is missing. They lost David Montgomery. And somehow Gibbs is like, yo, I got this. I'll do it. He did it again. 170 total yards, 4 touchdowns. He is averaging a ridiculous 162 yards per game, 6 touchdowns in these 3 weeks since Montgomery got hurt. He is in supersonic mode, too. He's getting all the coins, okay? Yours, mine, the entire NFC. He's got the full workload on his plate. He's not shying from it. He's finishing the season with a league-leading 20 touchdowns and just under 2,000 total yards. Insane. I got to meet and talk to Jahmyr right before his first game without Montgomery. I was told, maybe let's not told, but advised, maybe like, do we even talk about Montgomery? It's fresh. It had literally just happened, and here's what he had to say. I mean, there's this idea that you have to go supersonic down the stretch.
Yeah,
like,
I did see that, like, right before I got on. I seen that.
Yeah, like your Instagram profile pic now that David's out.
I don't really, take it, personally. So, I mean, when I seen that, it's just like, I'm just looking at it. I mean, I laugh or, depending on what it is, I laugh or like, I just joke around with it most of the time. But, yeah, I mean, I just like the challenge. It's going to be fun.
Challenge is going to be fun, yeah, for him and not anybody else, okay? This was the understatement of the century. He's completely taken over the league, huge in the playoffs. And by the way, the Lions now jump Kansas City as the betting faves to win Super Bowl 59 at plus 300. Are you on FanDuel Sportsbook right now? You should be. The Chiefs are right there at plus 350. Bills, Ravens tied for third at plus 600. Eagles fourth at plus 700. To put into perspective how big last night was for the Lions' chances, the number 1 seed makes the Super Bowl 53.3% of the time. Vikings fans are like, ooh, yeah, it's that big of a deal. The 5 seed has made it to the Super Bowl. This is crazy. 3.3% of the time. That's a low clip. That's according to NFL research. Huge night for Detroit, taking control of the conference. Vikings? Jared Allen will be on. Hall of Famer. I'm going to ask him all the questions. I'm trying to, the existential crisis I'm having in my head all morning on this call with Hamilton and my whole team is like, what is fair? Is it fair to now doubt them? They're a 14-win team. They won 14. They ran over everybody. Is it fair to overreact to this game because of the gravity of the game and what was in play? I don't know what's fair. I don't know how they bounce back. Hopefully they can. There are legit reasons I think Vikings fans will be able to say, too, about what we saw last night. The moment looked big. Nonverbals, reading the moment. If you aren't even a football fan, the pressure looked like it was impacting not only Sam Darnold, but maybe even their amazing Coach of the Year candidate who, like, might get traded to a team as a head coach. Like, it wasn't Kevin O'Connell's best game. Doesn't matter. Do we throw it out the window? Should we care? Can they go to L.A. and get a win? Well, let's dig into this with Jared Allen, maybe a little with Ben Solak as well. Hopefully it's a learning experience. There can be some good gleaned from this. But fair to be concerned, especially as they might have to face this very squad down the line. Okay, we've got lots more to get to. The AFC, by the way, let's get to that. Plenty of drama on that side as well. So fun. Let's take a look at the final standings here. Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Texans, the Chargers jumping the Steelers, and then the Broncos blow out Kansas City yesterday. Bengals are out. I mean, they fought their butts off, but whatever. 5-game win streak to end the season wasn't enough. It's their fault. Win some more games. Disappointing. Coach Lou is out this morning. I don't know how I feel about that. Somebody had to go. Something had to change. We'll dig into that later this week. The Broncos deserve the love this morning. That's where we should start here. I don't care who the Chiefs put out on the field. Bo Nix and this team, they were facing it. They were up against it. The pressure of losing and losing and losing the last 2 games. 2 must just winning in, easy playoff games. They come out in this one, division rival, they executed to perfection. We take nothing away from this win. This is amazing. Nothing is a given in these weird Week 18s, especially interdivision ones. And Bo started 18 for 18. He was like, Here I go. I'm working. Not just you, Jaden. I'm coming too. He racked up 262 total yards and 3 touchdowns in the freaking first half alone. Are you kidding me? He sends the Broncos into the locker room up 24-zip. Cush, comfy, cozy blanket, a weighted blanket for this entire team. There is no room for doubt or wackiness to creep in here. You can't play better than Knicks did yesterday with the entire season on the line. It really was a near perfect vibe going on. I can't wait to see the encore. They've got Buffalo next Sunday. They're not afraid. They want Buffalo. I also want to say, these highlights are great. See ya! Chiefs sitting there. They get the rest. I want to take a second. There we go. Beautiful touchdown. We went to Denver on our Up and Adams training camp tour. It was not a blur. I remember it very well, and I loved talking to Courtland Sutton. He is a great hang, but also like a prolific receiver who doesn't quite get the love. This is year 7 for him. Revolving, I think he had at the time 9 quarterbacks that he's played with, and a revolving door of coaches and staff and all of that. What a monster. Congratulations, Courtland. I'm so happy for you. Over 1,000 yards. He's earned his first career trip to the playoffs. First in his career, okay? And really one of the most memorable moments was talking to him. He was sitting with Patrick Surtain, and Courtland said what was going to happen. Let's take a listen.
We're going to the playoffs. We're going to be a playoff team, and guys are going to have to see us in that aspect. I think that we have that caliber of a team, the way that we've been working, the way that the focus has been in the locker room. I think that guys are understanding that last year we came up a couple games short, and that was on us. But I feel like we have what we need to be able to have that success.
No one on my entire training camp tour spoke this way. I bet you that team was like, whoa, 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 like I don't think anybody's told, I think people are told not to speak that way. Maybe the coaches, maybe like we had a Sean McVay moment, you're underestimating us, that Courtland saying, I'm going, we're going. He meant every freaking word of that. And he's the pillar, right? He's who Coach Payton and all those guys are like, this is our standard. Both of them, him and Surtain. The belief out of Courtland, even then in August, in Coach and in Bo and what they were building, it was so clear as I sat there with him that day. And I loved seeing it all come into play. Happy for everybody with the Broncos. They've been waiting a decade for this. Hamilton, what did you tell me last week? The last playoff game was Super Bowl 50?
Yeah, back in 2015 with Peyton, so a decade.
Yeah.
For this moment.
Broncos blew out the Chiefs. We take nothing away from them. We shouldn't have even mentioned the Bengals in this A block. I'm mad at you about that. We'll take a short break here. No, Ben Solak will be on the show. Coach Lou is out. We've got all sorts of news. We're not going to talk about Lou. Don't worry, Ben. We're going to talk about maybe the Patriots. Maybe we'll, crap on Chicago a little. Why not? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday, Katie.
Oh, Ham.
How are you holding up?
Good. Wildcard weekend will be insane.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a quiet wrestler that, I would like?
A quiet wrestler.
Like someone who's not sweaty.
Yeah, Richard is definitely better on this topic than I am.
I like that you don't
never
know
the
it.
biggest.
Who?
You said Kane.
Did The Undertaker talk? Not really, but he was a lot. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Is there ever anybody who's just unassuming, drinking at the bar, like a lunch pail guy,
Really
comes
humble.
in, comes in, does his work, beats the crap out of people, and then leaves. That's never. Don't you think that that's like a zig when you zag? Like Michael Davies of Embassy Row would be like, that's the asymmetrical. Have someone just show up and grind it out and not make a big fuss.
Casually do their job. Yeah.
I'm looking for that
I think
guy.
you're onto something here.
I'm looking for that guy.
They've had every other type of character. Might as well bring that into the mix.
Say that out loud. I'm not saying whatever. They're feeding me names, and I'm I don't know what the ins and outs are. I need to learn more. I'm quite excited to go, though. Can you believe I'm going to that? Can you believe I'm going to that? It's great.
Absolutely not.
It's great theater. Great theater. On my list of things I know nothing about, I could not know less of, it's college football, functional relationships with the opposite sex, and wrestling's probably up there. Like, I know more about, like, oil rigs and underwater basket weaving than I do. Yeah.
And sharks, yeah.
We have Jared Allen on the show. If you guys have questions for Jared Allen, let me know. K would like Goldberg. I've met Goldberg. I love them all. I love them all, but I don't know.
Ric Flair,
Yeah, Ric Flair just does not seem like a non-sweaty. When I say sweaty, I don't mean physically sweaty. Sweaty is a term I believe used in the comedy world when it's just like you're doing a lot, which is what they have to do. I should ask AJ Francis this question.
Great call.
Yeah. Is there a library, like a blue collar, unassuming, undersell, over deliver wrestler?
I refuse to believe that's a real person, Richard.
I don't know.
They're feeding me names.
They're throwing people in my ear and I'm not touching them. Okay, wildcard weekend playoff picture is cemented and set. I can't wait. We have so much fallout from yesterday. Let's welcome NFL analyst for ESPN, Ben Solak, who's already busy. Like, you put out a pod this morning. Do you sleep? Do you sleep ever?
Not on week 18, right? I was like 3 coffees and a green tea deep by the end of the day. It's last regular season. You just got to get the ball over the line at that point.
I was sad in the morning that it was over, and then there were such good games. I would say, like, the second half weren't great. The Sunday nighter was great, but the first slate was incredible. I had trouble sleeping as well. But before we get to the fallout from that, you know, it's the day after week 18. We know what this is all about. Head coaching positions and rumors and jockeying. Big news out of New York. The Giants announced that Shane and Dable are back next season. A lot of people thought that they might be moved, the whole Saquon thing. What do you think of that move by Mara after a 3-14 season?
All right, keep him if you want. Like, that's fine if you want to give him another year. All right. The messaging is, I'm almost out of patience, and apparently, according to Mike Garafolo, there's a win mandate, right? X number of wins, a playoff berth, which is just you are just setting the team up for failure, right? And if you don't like the crop of coaching options this year, I kind of get that. I think it's a pretty thin head coaching class. There's some guys that you like, but in general, it's not as strong as years past. And so, if you want to wait a year, right, keep on the burner and then go in 25, sure, that's fine. But the way that this is being communicated, like, you know, I'll keep them, but I'm not happy about it, and we better make the playoffs. It feels to me like you're establishing a lame duck season. And so I don't super love the move. I certainly don't love the way it's being presented.
Okay, the Patriots, let's move on there. Let's stay on the East Coast here. Gerard Mayo, I first to say I'm shocked. Like, I did not think I had Devin McCourty on last week. I was seeing the rumors. I was like, I don't even want to talk about this. I don't think it's a thing. Like, they know that this is a rebuild. He was handed a really tough situation. They part ways for whatever reason. I like Kraft. I think it's a pretty nice place to come in and be a coach. They've got a great quarterback in Drake May. At least they've got that figured out. You've said on your pod that this is a great situation for a candidate. Yeah. Who's the most attractive candidate?
Ben Johnson by a mile. This is the way that this goes really well for the Patriots, and honestly really well for Ben, is if all the Bears conversation, the Jaguars conversation, this, that, and the other thing, if it ends up with just Drake May and $130 million in cap space going to a guy like Ben Johnson, it's a perfect ideal marriage. Drake May did not have nearly the statistical season that Jaden Daniels did, nor that Bo Nix did with the Broncos. But on film, man, Drake is as impressive as those guys in terms of what he's capable of doing. And he did behind such a porous offensive line with such a weird carousel of pass catchers. Like, if you introduce a sharp head coach in Ben Johnson, both in terms of offensive designing, but then also in game management, some of the fourth down stuff, and you find a lot more competitive edges on Sundays within the game. As long as Elliot Wolf does his job in the offseason, the Patriots can take a big year two leap if it's Ben Johnson and Drake May. So absolutely, if I were Ben Johnson, first interview I want to take is the Patriots.
Wow. Do you think any of these candidates look at being a one-and-done coach and they're unattracted to that? I certainly would.
So I think yes and no.
Because it's an anomaly. The Crafts don't do it, but they also had Belichick for forever.
Yeah. I'll put it to you this way. It's very rare to see consecutive one-and-done coaches, right? And so, all right, they just went one-and-done on Gerard Mayo. If I walk out there, my first season's, not too great, and we're losing games, and we're banged up, and maybe we go 2-2 in the final month, and we end 5-12, I don't think the Crafts want to go one-and-done again, do a head coaching search for a third offseason in a row. And so, honestly, it does worry you to see the quick trigger, but also for your opportunity, right, for your chances, you probably think, you're right, I have at least 2 years here to build this thing out. So it goes both ways.
Patriots requested to interview Ben Johnson this morning.
Good.
What's the what's the least desirable coaching sitch in the league?
It's always tough to say this.
Go on.
From the outside, because you don't know exactly what ownership is and isn't saying and how involved they are, so on and so forth. I wouldn't want the Jets job, just with I think the way that you've seen that reported over the last few months and the fallout of the Aaron Rodgers decision, where it just seems like ownership doesn't necessarily know exactly the steps to take to build a good contender. And there's, I think, a lot of impatience there. And then there's a lot of like absentee ownership there. And you've got to get a new front office and you got to get a new quarterback and you don't have a great cap situation. Like, I think the Jets job is a long-term rebuild. And I think when you look at the names that they're bringing, like talking about Rex Ryan, talking about Mike Vrabel, they're bringing in established head coaching guys because they need someone who can steady the ship for 2 years without necessarily winning games. Like, all right, we already know these guys can be this sort of head coach. We just need to kind of get through this transition period.
You're Ben, and you, whatever, for whatever reason, you don't get the job. Or Aaron Glenn, let's say, had a great performance last night, and it's between the Bears and the Jets. Where are you going?
Bears.
I thought you were going to say Chicago, to be honest.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to give me Chicago as your least desirable
It's
spot.
Bears. The Bears are in a very weird spot because that defense got built up in the Matt Eberflus image, and they have some good players, and they spent some big contracts, and that defense now is probably starting to come around the corner of, all right, some of our guys are going to start to get a little bit older, and we're going to start to get really expensive. So that defense might be 1 or 2 good more years if you can tidy it up quick. And then the offense was supposed to be there and isn't. So they're very disparate parts right now, the offense and the defense.
Great
so
point.
It's going to be hard to get good fast in Chicago. There's got to be some bad contract decisions, and you have to draft really well. So Chicago is tough. It's a little bit of a conundrum. Caleb Williams was the first overall pick for a reason. And he didn't have a great season, but still, like, there's a lot there. And so Chicago, I think, is more desirable than the Jets.
And somehow the Jaguars evade our venom on this Monday morning, keeping Trent Baalke, getting rid of Doug Peterson, but they're not the least desirable place to coach, according to Ben Solak or myself. Do you want to take a look at the wild card picture?
We can do it. Yeah, I'll see it.
Let's do it. Okay, let's start with the AFC. Okay, so Chargers, Texans, Steelers, Ravens, Sunday Broncos, Bills, Packers, Eagles, Sunday Commanders, Bucks, Monday night. Let's just take a look at the whole thing here. Rams hosting the Vikings. Give me the Ben Solak genius, sort of where your eye goes. What's popping out on the schedule?
Packers, Eagles, and Commanders, Buccaneers are both really interesting games. There's a lot of quarterback health uncertainty, right? Jordan Love leaves that Week 18 game against the Bears. Oh, he could have gone back in. Jalen Daniels leaves Week 18 against the Cowboys. Oh, he could have gone back in. Yeah, but he didn't. And so, we got to check over the course of the week to make sure those guys are good. Jalen Hurts obviously still in the concussion protocol. So those games might get very tricky, but these are both Week 1 rematches, right? Bucks Commanders was a game where the Commanders defense wasn't ready yet. Bucks put a ton of points on him, and then Jaden was really strong in the second half. Now he gets Todd Bowles much later in his career, going to be able to see the blitzes a lot better, anticipate the rotations a lot better, and we know that Bucks secondary is eminently gettable. And so that's a big game for the Commanders as a heat check for a young team. And then Eagles-Packers was a close game in Brazil in Week 1. Both of those teams have evolved. Both of them have improved substantially. They play different ball than they used to, but there's the quarterback question. So those two games are I flip-flop already on who I'm picking out of those. Those are the hardest ones to figure out.
Commanders, Bucks got SNF?
Young Commanders. There's a lot of Commanders fans, right? They're big TV draws, and now you got Jaden Daniels, the rookie. I get it, yeah.
It's kind of surprising, though. Awesome seeing those two teams get that spot and shine on Sunday Night Football. I'm here for that. Do you want to talk Lions at all? Were you into? I'm sure you watched, kept you up all night. You drank some coffee. They have the 1 seed, dominated. We're going to get the Vikings side from our friend Jared Allen, future Hall of Famer. What did the Lions do to Sam Darnold?
There's a great clip of the old Michigan defense coordinator Don Brown screaming at his team in the film room, "Solve your problems with aggression." And it shows over the TV in the film room, he had the quote, "Solve your problems with aggression." Lions DC Aaron Glenn solved his problems with aggression, right? All right, we don't got a great cornerback room. We don't necessarily have the guys to cover the Vikings. We're just going to force the issue, right? This was raining hellfire for 4 quarters. They played man coverage on 67% of the snaps. They blitzed on 55% of Darnold's passing attempts. This was and the first time they played, we missed this in Week 7 because everybody loves Brian Flores and all the blitzing. The Lions blitzed Sam just as much in Week 7. When you blitz, it's going to be a high variance thing, right? Like the Vikings could have easily had a touchdown, put up 16 points, put up 23 points, but you're just trying to create some negative plays. Let's get some splashy stops. Let's flip the field and field position. Let's get those turnovers that you saw them get against the Niners and Brock Purdy. Aaron Glenn knows I don't have a perfect cover team right now. I just don't have the horses because of all these injuries. So I'm going to turn into the skid, and I'm going to be an aggressive pressure team. I'm going to force the issue at the quarterback position. Yeah, there's going to be open receivers, but if the guy can't hit him, the guy can't hit him. So I think Glenn has coached out of his mind this season. I've been so impressed.
Let's talk about these Rams. Now, the Vikings have to go on the road. They lose the 1 seed. Huge loss. Can't wait to dig into it. Like, I wonder if Jared Allen, if you could ask, I'll ask Jared whatever you want me to ask him. Like, I kind of want to know if I'm trying to think of the Vikings thing I want him to say. Like, is he going to walk me off of being worried about a 14-win team? Or is he going to say, yeah, they looked nervous AF? I'm so curious.
My thing is this. If this game had happened for the Vikings in week 15, I think we would all be okay with it, right? We would all say, like,
100%.
oh, they had that bad game against the Lions, but, like, they're probably still very good. They're a 14-win team. Like, it's going to be okay. They can make a push. Because it happens in week 18, Sunday Night Football, the last regular season game. It's our last memory, right? It's that availability bias. It's the last thing we saw. So we outsize it. It feels too big. Over the sample, the Vikings have played 17 good games out of 18 good games. That's probably a very good team, right?
But the argument against would be, yeah, those 14 wins were great, whatever, and they had a big win against the Packers, not like the week before, fine, a big game with stakes. But we have such a little sample size of Sam Darnold in these big, big games, and it's not great. And you can say what you want about the 14 games. If you're a great team, a contender wins the game yesterday.
Yeah, I do. You made the point when I was sitting in the pre-show where you said, Sam Darnold under the big lights, also Kevin O'Connell under the big lights. And I thought that was a very good point. O'Connell had a lot of opportunities second quarter of this game, early third quarter of this game. It's still a 4-point game, 1-point game, 8-point game to really get Sam into a rhythm, right? Okay, let's move away from the long drop backs.
Yeah, what was going on with the downfield stuff? Like, let's go underneath. Let's do what we do. I was so like, he was nervous. He was making Sam nervous. I was like, let's little catch and run anybody. Justin Jefferson, take it 80, go.
When I'm losing to my little brother in Madden, and it's frustrating, and I shouldn't be losing, I don't call slants, all right? I call verticals because I want to get it all back in one play, right? And that is the temptation that we get in these moments where Kevin O'Connell standing on the sideline, he knows the play calls, he knows the design.
Yeah.
He's seeing Justin Jefferson with space. He's seeing Jordan Addison with space. He's seeing TJ Hockenson barely missing the seam, and he's saying to himself, we are so close to connecting on this big one. We're going to break this thing wide open. We're going to punish Glenn. We just got to get it. And so you keep hitting, and you keep hitting, you keep hitting.
Yeah.
When in reality, feeling how shaky Sam was in the pocket, there were probably opportunities to run the ball a little bit more, establish a little bit more quick game, and get Sam into a rhythm. He hasn't had to get Sam into a rhythm much this season because they walk out in the first drive, and what do? Score a touchdown, right? They're so good on the opening script. They generate that lead, and now play action is working for you, and the movement series is working for you, the quarterback on the boot action. All of a sudden, they're trailing in a way that they're not super accustomed to trailing. Less than 25% of Sam Darnold's dropbacks this season before that game came with a win probability of less than 50%, according to NGS, right? They've largely been sun runners, and they got punched in the mouth a few times by Glenn. They didn't really know how to pick themselves up off the mat. That's something you need to learn how to do in the postseason, both for a head coach as a play caller and as a young quarterback.
And we'll see if they can learn that in a hurry, and it might be a good thing. They can make adjustments, watch the tape. I mean, Kevin's obviously brilliant, and see if they can adjust on the road against the Rams. The Broncos, they get the 7 seed, right, over the Chiefs. Denver back in the playoffs for the first time since Peyton Manning's Super Bowl in 50. Bo Nix was unbelievable. I don't care who they're playing, what they're playing, who's in here, who's out. What did you make of his dominant performance before the postseason kicks off?
Yeah, I did like at that one point when he was 18 for 18 for, what is it, 250 yards, 3 scores, and the last catch was the Devon Vele tip drill touchdown, right? We're like, all right, everyone's having a good day right now in Denver. Bo has improved so much over the course of the season. I've been very impressed. Broncos fans have a few screenshots of mine from October where I said Bo looked overwhelmed. He was cosplaying in the pocket, and they love those screenshots. I stand by it. That was what was happening in October, and Sean Payton has done a very nice job in, all right, figuring out what the rookie can and can't get away with, what he is and isn't comfortable. You've seen now just on the screen the touchdown behind line of scrimmage to Marvin Mims. They've incorporated such a big screen series and swing series to kind of just get him these quick passes. They've done a nice job bringing their rookie along. Now, Denver's good, and they're about to get deleted by the Bills. The Buffalo, they are outgunned, right? Denver this offseason needs to add wide receiver weapons behind Courtland Sutton. They probably need a true 3-down running back.
Devontae Adams.
Yeah. They are a young team, and this is going to be a very good playoff experience for them, but they're running into a preposterously good 2 seed in Buffalo. And so I'm happy for them. I like them. Arrows pointing up. I am very worried about the game that they're going to play against Buffalo.
I think they should bring in Devontae Adams.
I was looking at some of the veteran names, and the guy for me was Chris Godwin, because we're so smart with Marvin Mims usage, and we have these big Courtland Sutton plays. Yeah. I want a stick mover. I want a 3rd and 6, run a slant, run a curl from the guy.
Who is that in his 2007 offense though? Like that's what, or it's 2017. who's the, like we got to find who's the,
Right.
I'm trying to think like the Pierre Thomas, he just crafts everything around that. So what
Yeah.
role would he play? From that Saints
to me,
team?
like Godwin is your big slot role, right? I go to the Marcus Colston idea, right? Which
Colston,
Colston was
yeah,
obviously
8 touchdowns
6'5",
a year, 1,000,
right?
yeah, tons of catches,
But
tons
Godwin,
of volume.
who, Godwin's over 30, he's coming off a major injury, but he's probably going to hit the market because how well Jalen McMillan's playing for the Bucs.
Yeah.
And Godwin is he's steady, right? He's extremely reliable. He's a great blocker.
Yeah.
Like, that's a guy you can give 85% of the snaps to, and that way you're not doing it for Devon Vele and Marvin Mims and some of these guys who are better in role positions. So I like Chris Godwin for them.
I think Adams sounds great, but you're saying Broncos at Bills Sunday, the 1 p.m.er on CBS. Broncos 8.5-point underdogs. You're saying bye Broncos and see you next year. We're going to take a TV break. We're going to stay live on YouTube. I want to ask you a couple more questions. Jared Allen is rearing to go, guys. So we're going to take a short TV break on Up and Adams, Ben Solak, ESPN fame. Steelers lose to the Bengals. Chargers win, so they're the 6th seed. They go back to Baltimore. They're 9.5-point underdogs. 4 straight losses. How do they turn this around? What is going on?
Yeah, I'm like Tomlin magic, you kind of just wave away at it. You're like, that'll be fine. They were very banged up in December. I think that was an underreported, underappreciated thing, right? They missed George Pickens for a lot of games. They missed Joey Porter Jr. for a couple of those games. TJ Watt is clearly less than 100%. Larry Ogunjobi was missing time. Deshaun Elliott was missing time. Like, these are important players to them. So I absolutely, and I truly believe Pittsburgh is better than the 4-game skid would indicate. They now get a Baltimore team with whom they are intimately familiar.
Yes,
they're playing in a stadium they've played him consistently. They know how to play there. Playing a quarterback in Lamar Jackson, who they've consistently defended better than other teams have defended him in his respective seasons. Like, there is a circle the wagons opportunity here for Pittsburgh. I think they're as big of an underdog as Denver is, but I think they're much more live, right? You go look at the history of John Harbaugh against Mike Tomlin. Underdogs in those games, especially big underdogs, tend to outperform, right? These games are always played close. The Ravens are the better team. And Pittsburgh's got, issues in the passing game, and Russell Wilson's not playing well. Like, there's serious problems there, but you cannot count Pittsburgh out of an interdivisional game like this.
Is that the sneaky team for you? No momentum going into the playoffs. Like, let's look at make this interesting to me before we let you go.
Yeah.
You can, of course, check out Ben Solak's column on ESPN.com, on ESPN Daily, and you can listen to him on the Mina Kimes Show. Ben, let's see the playoff picture, if we could, control room. Make this interesting. So it's not just chalk, Lions, Chiefs. Can you make it interesting in either division? Is there a sneaky team you like? Can we pop
I think both the Lions
and
the Chiefs are going to lose their games after the first round bye. I think that we're going to see both first seeds fall, which last time it's happened, it was, I want to say, like it was in the 2000s. I want to say it was late 2000s. The Chiefs are far from a perfect team. We know this. Absolutely. They've won freaking 15 games, but they have a point differential of like 5, right? We know that this team plays these tight one-score games, and they're going to run into juggernauts, potentially, in the AFC playoff picture. Now, they're going to get a wild card draw in the division round, same way the Lions are. But, man, the 5-seed Chargers, pretty good ball team. All right, there's absolutely nothing to sneeze at there. Even if they do get 6-seed Steelers, and I know they just beat the Steelers last week, the Steelers can drag you into the mud. The Steelers are very comfortable playing a one-score sleepy game the way the Chiefs are. Then on the other side, the Vikings and the Packers is the 5 and the 6 seed. These are we have never seen a 13-win wildcard team. We have a 14-win wildcard team in the Minnesota Vikings. Those teams can absolutely walk into Detroit and beat a Detroit team that, yes, just did beat the Packers. Yes, just did beat the Vikings, but lost Terry and Arnold potentially to an injury and now has to deal with more shuffling in the secondary. So yeah, I think the 1 seeds this year are not weaker than your average 1 seeds, but they do have very challenging matchups, divisional round and conference round. So yeah, I think we're not getting chalk for sure.
What a take. I love to hear it. I'm not, by the way, my smiling is not co-signing that. I'm not caught saying anything against the Chiefs, but Ben, we appreciate you. Happy New Year, and thanks for making time for us this morning.
Thank you, Kay. Have a good one.
Thanks.
I've been going hard. Sacked by Jared Allen. Oh, I'm going so hard. Oh, I'm going so hard. Oh, it's a sack by Jared Allen. Tell me what you know about.
Very excited about this. 5-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro. Like, what in the world? He comes on the show. It's insane. Future Hall of Famer. And Jared Allen, are we here to announce that you're the new head coach of the Chicago Bears?
Oh, gosh, no, I don't think I want that job. Oh, man. Although, Kevin Warren's a buddy of mine, so they got some talent over there. But
Do they?
I think they need a Kevin O'Connell-esque type guy. You know who I think would be great in Chicago?
Who?
Kevin Stefanski. I think he should jump ship from the Browns and move over to Chicago, and you'd see a heck of a team down there.
That makes me sad for Kevin Stefanski. You're smiling, you're laughing, you're jovial, affable. Are you not like in the pits after this loss? How are you feeling? What happened last night?
Yeah, well, I was driving back from Florida last night, so with the fans, we were listening to it, and I'd rather lose this one than lose in the playoffs. I mean, it just I think my concern lies in the Sam Darnold. I don't know how many big games he's actually been in, so my only big concern is like, is this indicative of how he's going to play in high pressure games? Because there was a lot riding on this. But I try to give everybody grace and understand you're going to have your off days. I mean, it's a long season. You're grinding. You're 14. 14-3 is nothing to snub at. Unfortunately, it gets you the 5 seed in the NFC this year, so that sucks. So no, I'm not overly concerned. I think we could have used the bye week though to let that defense rest a little bit. But I mean, you saw glimpses of how good we could be. We got to capitalize in the red zone. I mean, I think for me, you got to stick to the run. I think you got to run the ball more. To be honest. I think that's that sweet sauce, right? You start chasing, you're gonna, Kevin's a great coach. You got to do what you got to do.
But it was kind of close. So why were they chasing? Like, I'm looking at Kevin, I'm like, it wasn't that wild. It was close throughout. You didn't need to force it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think sometimes you go for the juggernaut, right? You're trying to pull up your best play, get your best players involved. I'm a different type of guy though. I'm running the ball probably 4 times in a row from the 5-yard line every single time. and you see what happened. The Lions did a great job sticking to the run. I mean, they were defense was doing a great job early, creating turnovers, stopping the run. Nothing was getting too crazy, and then Jahmyr took over towards the end, second half. And went loose. And that was kind of the difference. I think that separated it. But you take that first half, and that score could have easily been flopped if we put the ball in. I think we were in the red zone inside the 5, 4 times.
What are you like driving with your family, listening to the biggest game Sam Darnold's ever played?
3,500 Dodge Ram dually pulling a dump trailer.
What are you like though? Are you like swerving a little when something goes wrong? Like, what are you?
No, the weather
Sam's
sucks.
overthrowing receivers, and you're like beeping. Are you?
You can't even swerve these days in these cars. They got like autocorrect.
Oh,
They don't let you get too close to cars these days. It's pretty much hands free. But we had some pretty bad rainstorms in Alabama, so we had to lock it in.
Oh gosh. So the thing is, and I like you're sort of walking this fine line of like, well, I'm not that worried, but this is the biggest game he's ever played, and you didn't see
100%.
it. But you didn't see his
100%.
face. Yeah, but Jared.
I see him just saying, yeah.
He looked nervous.
Sure.
I think that's. I'm sure Vikings fans will disagree. I think it's fair to say he looked.
Well, I mean, you can
nervous.
just tell by when you're overthrowing your stuff like that, you just tend to get more adrenaline going on, right? My big concern is for any team, and it's not just Vikings. It's when a defense can show ways to agitate you, or when you expose the team. I'm not saying the Vikings were exposed by any means here, but I'm saying a team, a player, when you create a formula that happens to work, other teams try to recreate that. McVay down there obviously has a lot of history with Kevin, so they're gonna know each other inside and out, and attack each other's weaknesses pretty strongly. So again. I look at it as a chance to go avenge a loss we should have had back there, and with a handful of weeks ago, and keep it moving.
How do they bounce back? I mean, it's easy to say. They've already lost to this team. They're coming off a loss. Now they have to go on the road and face the team in the biggest game of Sam Darnold's career. How do they bounce back?
Well, I think you have to address it as what it is. You can't brush it under the table, right? You can't just sit there and be like, oh, it's a loss for 14-3. You can sing the kumbayas and praises for what a great season it is, but the reality is you got your butt kicked in on the road in the divisional championship game for the #1 seed in the playoffs. So I think you just got to address that as it is. Be honest with yourself. Defense got to understand no matter where the game goes, you got to play to the end. That's what the Lions did. Lions just kept. Goff didn't play a great game. That's not like Goff, was yesterday. But their defense just kept giving them chances, right? And they kept sticking to the run game. They kept running the ball. So I think go back to what got you there. I always look at, I'm a big fan of the UFC, and I got a lot of friends that fight in the UFC, and you'll see guys that make these amazing runs. They get to a title fight and they completely try something different. It's like dance with the girl that got you, right? It's just go, stay steadfast in what you do. And if you lose doing what you do, that's one thing. But I don't think, I can't remember, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I can't remember. I think they had almost 30 pass attempts by halftime, which seemed odd to me. So I think, you go back, like I said, you're just honest with the players. Everybody takes ownership, and then you drop it and you say, hey, we got to go beat a team that we are very capable of beating in the Rams. And then you get another crack at the Detroit, and the win in the divisional round will be sweeter than the division title.
I hope that for the Vikings and that fan base. If I'm the Rams, I'm trying to think, and you're a defensive mastermind playing the game at the level that you did. You know, I hear what you're saying. It's almost good this happened. Like if the Rams decide to go right now and play the same thing, play man, blitz like the Lions did, is that a good idea? Because it's KOC might be ready for that. Justin Jefferson, if you do that, he could go crazy. So if you're the Rams, are you using that game plan? Is it too trite to say, let's recreate what the Lions just did and roll this out again, and it's going to F them up?
You're probably not going to try to recreate it, verbatim, but you're definitely going to take pieces of it. I mean, if it's me, I'm starting the game that way. Heck, I might throw a zero blitz at him to start the game.
Really?
just to see where his head's at, right? I look back to the days when we used to play Detroit when they had Megatron, or we played Arizona with Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, we just bracketed them. We just said, okay, we're going to make anybody else beat us, right? So if I'm the Rams, I'm doing that. I'm bracketing. I'm double teaming Jefferson all day, and I'm sitting in the house at Sam, and we're going to see what happens. And then you can adjust on that. But the Vikings are the same way, right? I think we're one of the blitz happiest teams in the league. And I mean, defense I thought played pretty solid up until the end. But I think in the first half we were playing more zone. I don't think we brought a whole lot of pressure in the first half, really. So again, I think if the coaching staff and the team is who I think they are, and I think very highly of them. I absolutely love what Minnesota is doing and the personnel, the people they got there. I think it's some hard self-scout just on this one game, and you say, okay, let's fix this. Sam, you've seen it. You dealt with it, whatever we got to do to get your nerves down, get back to playing how you were. And I think, got to remember, Sam, great, fantastic year, made the Pro Bowl, but,
yes,
let's not, he erased a whole bunch of his previous career, but you still got to treat him, I'm not saying with kid gloves, but you got to bring him along. He's not the seasoned vet who's been in all these crazy games, who's used to winning 14 games a year. He's not used to the Pro Bowl level of caliber and the expectations that come with Pro Bowl level of caliber. So treat him like the guy you brought in back in August or whatever it is, and go win 14. What do you got to win? 4 more games to win a Super Bowl?
Gosh darn it, Jared Allen, you sound like a freaking coach.
They're paying coaches some decent money, so I guess.
I don't know. Here you are talking about getting your quarterbacks. You're talking about culture. You're talking about like the human aspect. Then you're throwing zero blitzes to see if he's shaken up and seeing things that have you ever thought about it? Have you ever given any serious thought about it, or too much?
Yeah, no joke. I always laugh with my wife. I said, I actually did some consulting with the Broncos last year, and just some pass rush stuff down there. But I have no desire to work till 2 a.m. I told my wife, I could probably be a head coach at some point, right? Because I'd have to control the schedule. Yeah. My kids are used to seeing me, so that doesn't change when they're 13 and 10. But I was joking before I hired Kevin. I was joking with Rob Brzezinski. I was like, that's the one spot I could have probably been the head coach because the fans love me. And I think this is where people get wrong in the NFL, or even coaches in general. They expect their head coach to be these masterminds, right? Now, again, Kevin happens to be an offensive genius, whisper, which is great. But too many times they get these head coaches that are great offensive, defensive coordinators, but you don't know how to delegate. You don't know how to create an atmosphere of like upper management where you need to let your coordinators coordinate. You need to and then let that trickle down. So I always joke that if I did it, you don't need to know anything. You don't really need to know anything about play calling to be a head coach. You need to know game management. You need to know how to create an atmosphere within the building that's going to lead to success, because winning habits are taught just as much as losing habits are taught. And you have to know how to build that team, and then ride with that team, have trust in that team. I always laugh when you see head coaches pull play calling duties from somebody or relinquish play calling duties, and you're just like, dude, you might as well fire yourself because you don't even believe in yourself or the people you got. So I view coaching slightly different than what the norm is.
No, I love this. It's what KOC does really well. It's what Dan Campbell does really well. Both of those.
Very
teams.
much so.
Yeah.
That's the thing with Dan. You don't see Dan interjecting on his offensive coordinator. You know who's calling the plays.
Yes.
Obviously they're gonna have meetings. Dan has a great presence, and he's overhead. But then you look at the D coordinator. You know who's calling it. And you look at Brian Flores. You know Brian Flores is calling those plays. Mm-hmm. Stefanski Kevin KOC happens to be a great mind and stuff like that. So, I think that's where, for me, the coaching side is like, ooh, there's become this
The
culture.
fact that you're even a little interested is news to me, which I thought you would have, like, I would have bet your ranch that you would not want to be interested in
It would
that.
have to be the perfect scenario where it's like, I got about 20
I think you're wrong. I don't know. I think you've been in your bubble a little too. The fact that you're wrong. I would just say this right now. You are wrong to think that you would not be welcome with open arms in like every city that is looking for a head coach. You think like that's the only place you'd have success because they love you. Chicago, like hello.
Well, I would have. Let's put it this way. I'd have Grace in Minnesota.
Oh yeah, that does matter. Well, here's have you seen this KOC story? You might have your chance here. Let's make a little news because KOC's going into his last year. Teams are going to be making trade offers to get this one of a kind guy, and then you might get your shot there. If the Vikings called you and said, "Would you be interested in head coaching at some point down the line?" Would you take the call?
Absolutely. That's you're dumb not to take the call. I took the call from Sean Payton when I was in Hawaii on spring break with the family, and he was offering me a job, and I was like, "Ooh, we gotta figure something else out here."
Is that known that you were there? Why didn't I know that you were there? I'm sure it was reported, and I just didn't notice.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I wasn't in like any formal coaching role.
That's the way you like it.
Yeah, so you know what it is? I don't, to be honest, and this is just being honest, I love working with players. Like I love teaching the art of pass rushing, and I mean not just pass rushing, but football in general. I love teaching other people what I know. I got zero, like the game planning stuff was cool to see. It's the hours that coaches put in, it's cool to see. But at the end of the day, if I'm spending, I better win every game if I'm there until 1, 2 in the morning. I mean, there's better ways to do it if you know. So I enjoy the part of being able to work with players as far as all the drawing up cards and all the nonsense. I'm like, let's just give me the playbook. Let's install Israel.
I'd love to see it. In all seriousness, like I'm saying, there will be calls for KOC for a trade. If you're the Vikings, the phone's off the hook, right? You're not answering any call. There's no world where you're...
No, and if I'm Kevin, my agent is my agent is leveraging every single open job out there, like the Bears job in the division with Kevin Warren and a first pick number 1 quarterback. So they're gonna have to pay him. I think Kevin might get
for him.
Might be the highest paid coach, which he deserves. I mean, look what he's done since he's been there. We would be crazy to let him go. And I don't think anybody would give what it would take to get him. He'd probably have to give up 3, 4 first rounders for him right now.
And then it'll be very interesting to see what happens after this Rams game. We'll take a short break and talk about it after. But, if Sam Darnold doesn't perform, what do you do with Sam? What happens with Sam's?
Well, that makes Quasi's job easy.
That's kind of fair. We're in a TV break, but we're still live on YouTube. I want this for the Vikings. I wanted them to get the 1 seed. And I've said this to you before, they're the most heartbroken franchise in the NFL. They get to the big games, it doesn't work. You were part of some of these amazing teams. You've had generational players. I think that the Vikings fan base is the most tortured. Do you buy that? Is there something there?
100%. I mean, it's just, even if it's in the big game, whether it's the NFC Championship game with what happened to us in 2009, or you look at the 4 year where they went 4 straight. No, that was the Bills went 4 straight years, but they went to 4 Super Bowls.
Similar,
yeah, similar.
So even mini miracle happens and then it's ripped from you the next.
You look at Case Keenum, right? They come in.
You get the taste.
They go to the NFC Championship game and they get drugged by Philly. I was like, oh my goodness. I think you're right. I buy into that. They're tortured. I had a lot of hopes for this game based on last week's game. I thought the Vikings just looked lights out at home. And so I was thinking they were going to do better up in Detroit.
Yeah.
But the reality is, again, you got to win when it matters, and that takes time. It does. That's a culture build. I think you look at the bulk of what Kevin's building over there, and you're starting to see it. I think you look at, for me, one thing I'm excited about, especially for the playoffs, is how many close games we've won. And that takes players with fortitude. That takes players that see the long vision, right? That aren't shook in the beginning of a game and stuff like that. So you kind of try to let this one slide, but like you said, history's tough with Minnesota, and you see these all of a sudden.
But does it affect the winning? Because people are like, there's people on the Jets saying this team is cursed. we can't win no matter what. You can look at the Bears or the Jets. Like, does that exist with the Vikings or Buffalo even?
No, because I don't think it exists because we're winning the regular season, right? And the reality is that, I mean, the only difference between the regular season and playoffs is you lose, you go home, right? So there's just got to be a heightened sense of urgency in those situations, and there's got to be an expectation. So I think what happens with franchises like the Jets, and it could be a little bit in the Vikings, but there's not enough. I don't think there's enough of upper management still there that would carry over this long. Is you have to have an expectation of winning. You can't have a mindset like, oh, we made it. Like I felt when the Vikings went 13 games, Kevin's first year, we played the Giants, right? Mm-hmm. I felt like because we won so many close games that year, and there was no expectations of doing it. It was like this. There was like a wow, we made it type of feeling, and then you get waxed by the Giants. I don't get that sense this year, right?
What about when you played? When you played, did you have the mentality of we can win, or did you have a thing?
Oh, we went in New Orleans 100%. We expected to win every game. Mm-hmm. Brad Childers, I give Brad doesn't give as much credit as for being such a great coach that he was. Brad actually has a pretty solid winning record, and I love Brad to death. But Brad's expectation was winning, plain and simple.
I was trying to find news. We had incentives yesterday, like week 18, like who got what, who whatever. I couldn't find an incentive thing for you. It's kind of hard to track down. But I did find, speaking of your guy Brad, when you signed with the Vikings, you received a signing bonus of $15,500,069. Who are you, Rob Gronkowski? Like,
that was all the Vikings.
Are you 8 years old?
The Vikings were trying to be clever.
Oh, they did that, not you.
No, not me. They were trying to be clever.
Oh, it worked. It worked clearly.
Yeah. So, and then I have a great agent too. So he positioned me well. So they had to make good on all those across the board, especially when we brought Brett in.
Jared, we're gonna get you a head coaching, at least a bid somewhere, so you can leverage, get a marketing deal.
Hey, you know what? If the wife and kids are on board, I'm always on
board.
Love that. I just gotta have some time in the off season to still rope and do my fun stuff.
I'm still not over the fact that I was at the Broncos in August and didn't know that you were secretly somehow like taking an envelope of cash in the back parking lot for working.
No, not this year. Last year.
Last year. Did you work with Nick Bonito?
Nick is my guy. I love watching him.
Are you the reason Nick Bonito had this breakout year? How many sacks did he have? Like 13 and a half?
Dude is a stud. So when I got there, I told everybody, I said, he's probably one of the most gifted athletes I've ever seen. That dude, and when his mind finally clicked in that he expects to win every rush, he could. He's a guy that could be 20 sacks easily. But no, I can't take full credit. Mike Wilhoit down there is a fantastic coach. Mike was a player. Mike gets it. Mike knows how to manage his room really, really well. And
take the credit, Alan.
Jahmyr Kane down there, he's the D-line and pass rush coordinator. So I worked with Jahmyr a lot. He came over from LSU. He was Nick's coach actually in college. And so they have a good group of guys that know how to know. And that's probably I would say the biggest thing. When you see a player elevate or drop based on moving or where he's at, look at coaching changes, right? Because how information is relayed to players is a big deal. You got to understand a player's mindset of what you can give them, but more importantly, what you can't give them. Some people you can't give too much information to. And I think Mike and Jahmyr have a great feeling for their players. And you see what they've done. I think 2 years ago, they had 36 sacks down there, and they were 63 this year.
Spoken like a head coach, giving credit to everyone else. This kid has more sacks than TJ Watt. People are wondering about the breakout performance of Nick Bonito. Look no further than future Hall of Famer, future Pro Football Hall of Fame finalist for 2025.
What? Keep tallying on those. Goodness, I mean, I don't think those are actually things you want to keep tallying. 5 years. That sounds like. Ooh.
Do you hate that? 5 years. I mean, I wanted to ask you, but I don't even know what to ask you at this point. What's your how's it different? How do you feel now from the first time you were a finalist?
First time was cool. First time was like, oh wow, I've never been nothing but a finalist, so I'm like, I don't really know what those other feelings are like. First time was cool. Second time, you're expecting to get back there. I thought I was getting in my second time, and then every time after that, I've just been like, this is stupid.
Don't say that though. I think that doesn't. I think you need to politic a little bit. I think we need to like.
I can't. I can't kiss the ring. I'm not politicking. I'm not that guy. If my work doesn't stand by itself, then tell me that. Don't let me in. But I think you look about everybody I'm surrounded by, nobody did it better than me when I was playing. That's facts. Nobody had more sacks than me in the 12 years that I played. And some guys had multiple years on me. Yeah. So if I'm not good enough on my resume, then tell me that. Don't let me in. Kick me off the list.
What do you think's holding you back? Or them back? It's not up to you.
Again, I don't know. I control what I can control in my life, and that's not something I can control. I did my work, and I move forward that way. So yeah, I don't know what the deal is. I don't know how the game is played. I don't really care to know. Again, I got my personal feelings, and it is what it is.
You sacked a future Hall of Famer too. Hopefully you get in there. Aaron Rodgers leaves the field yesterday. I was thinking about your relationship with him. Of course, like you can't write, in my opinion, like my history of loving the NFL without watching, you go after the Packers and you with Rodgers. What are your thoughts? Like, do you think he's done forever?
You know what? I love competing against Aaron. I really did. I think he's a hell of a quarterback. I don't know about the darkness retreats and that kind of stuff. That can be a little weird, but I've never had nothing but good conversations with him and respect for him. He's nice to my wife and kids, so that's how I judge people. I would hope he could go out on a higher note than this, but at the same time, Father Time gets us all, and it just might not be. It might not. I just think he deserves to go out on a better note. That's so although I don't know where that is, where that could be.
Tennessee, the Raiders, maybe, but is that a better note?
Yeah, but you want to go to a crappy team?
Yeah.
The Jets dumped so much money in there, and you go back to earlier when you said I think like Jets are cursed. I think you got to look at that leadership. You just go back and look at the common denominator, right? Look at Dallas. Jerry's like, I'm going to die in this seat. Well, then you're probably not winning another Super Bowl because the game has passed them by, right? Because it is what it is. It's kind of a younger coach's game. It's a younger man's game. I think, I don't know Woody Johnson up there, but if you're just looking at the history of how the team has been run since they've had winning seasons, he's the constant. And, it's a math equation. Change the constant, you might get a different variable.
What's the check I'd have to write you to go do an ayahuasca retreat with Aaron Rodgers and film it like on Enigma?
Oh my gosh!
What is the number? I want the number.
I'm not into that whole drug thing. I don't like my mind to be tripping. Goodness, it'd have to be pretty penny. Although it'd probably be pretty funny. Although, I read an article. Someone's like, I found death or hell. Then I don't need to go to hell to find myself. I know who I am in Jesus Christ. So
that's right. If it's not good enough, I love how you think you wouldn't go for like $1 million, like $1 million and 69 cents. Are you going?
No.
You wouldn't go for $1 million?
You guys, college me, I'm in.
You're like, I saw worse in college.
I made enough money. I don't need to do weird stuff for money anymore.
I'll leave it like this. 8 double-digit sack seasons, led the league twice. And that's all you need to know. Jared Allen, great to see you. Happy New Year, the best. Good luck to the Vikings.
Happy New Year. Take care.
Bye. So funny. Not for $1 million.